What's up, YouTube? It's Joe Catchpolia sitting on the couch making some money investing in fractional real estate online, as usual. In one of my recent videos, I mentioned that I was making more money from the Mogul.Club's rewards, just the actual rewards, than I was making in lofty rent every month. And some people thought that was like not a realistic comment, and I wanted to jump in, and it made me go back and do some math and realize that it's hard to figure out. And I'm going to show you how I did it. But I think it's true in a lot of months, or actually most months, since the Mogul clubs have come about. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you're investing in Mogul, there's these things called the clubs, and you just click on the clubs tab. You can get invited. If you're in our community, you should ask somebody to send you their link so that they can invite you if they haven't invited you yet. I have a link to the 400 club if nobody else wants to invite you in there. Or you can just join. Just when you do join, to complete your membership, you need to invite somebody else, right? Anyway, once you're in there, the amount that you have invested basically gives, entitles you to that fraction of the rewards that the club receives from new investments that are made. And so, and it's 2% of new investments. So in general, when a new investment's made, the club, when a new investment is made by any member of the club and that member assigns that investment to the club, then there's a 2% reward. 2% of that total amount invested goes into here. And then it's distributed based on how much you've invested relative to how much everybody in the club has invested. And so, if you've already joined this, you get these notifications, maybe several times a day, depending on how active your club is, that you've got 3 cents, 6 cents, 7 cents, a couple of bucks. I think the biggest one that I've got in one go is $11 or something. But when I go to the report to try to figure out exactly how I got, what I got, was really tough. So I want to show you how I did it in case you want to do this for yourself and verify. But I went into the wallet. So it's, in the top right, you click on your picture and you can click on, what do you click on here? You click on account, and then in the account, then it gives you the option to click on the wallet. You go to transactions, and then you want to select the type of transaction, and I just selected club payout, and then export it. And that gave me a PDF that looks like this. And you could go through and add up each one of these columns by hand, which is what I started to do, and then I realized that I had 32 pages of this. The PDF tool that I have won't extract this to a CSV file. I used to be able to do that. Maybe I had a better version of Adobe or something, but I couldn't do that. So I got Grok to do it for me. At first I asked Grok to do all the math and just actually add up every month, but it was clearly wrong. It was giving me crazy numbers at first and then slightly better numbers. But so finally I just said, okay, no, give me all the CSV numbers, or give me the output in a CSV, and then I put it into Notepad and then opened it in Excel. And so that's what I got here. And then I just got rid of all the columns that I didn't need, and I added up each month and summed each month up. And so you can see here's my total. Since this started, and it was started in April of last year, I've earned $498. The average of, and I ignored months. Yeah, I ignored April of last year because it started in the middle, and I ignored April of this year. Because we're just a few days in, and so I averaged all the other months, and so on average I've made $44.51 in club rewards. So comparing that to on Lofty, I get about $1.09 a day in rent. So less than $33 a month in rent. So, I mean, my statement was accurate. I'm definitely getting more club rewards on average than I'm getting in rent on Lofty. Now, why is that? It's because if you look at my cash flowing percentages, the properties that I've chosen, 91% of them are non-cash flowing properties. In large part, that's by design, right? Those are the ones that have the deepest discounts. So it's not, I didn't mean this to be like just an attack on Lofty. I certainly could have a portfolio, on Lofty that was giving me a higher rent payout than that. It was just sort of a funny comment. It was something that I noticed. What am I jumping all around here? That I had just noticed and made that comment. Because, there are some people that, we get the question every once in a while in the Mogul thread, should I join a club? Which club should I join? And my thought is it's really just, I don't see any downside to joining one. It does really just feel like free money. Before I forget, please like and subscribe. In the description of this video, I have links to all the places where I'm currently investing in fractional real estate online. Please do your own due diligence on those links on any of these platforms and any of the properties that you see me talking about. Just because I'm investing in here doesn't mean that you should. Just because I haven't figured out what the downside of something is doesn't mean that there's not one, right? I mean, I've lost money on some of these platforms. I've definitely made good money on some of them, but it's something that you want to make sure is the right investment for you. Also, in the description to this video is a link to the Discord that I have set up. There's a couple hundred of us that are all in there talking about fractional real estate investing across a whole bunch of different platforms. And that's actually where I'm talking about, right? People jump in there occasionally and ask about, should I join a club? What club? And, if you're investing on Mogul already, I don't see any downside to joining a club, right? You're not giving up anything by assigning the investment to that club. You're not giving up your rights in that investment. You're just picking the club. The reason that you pick a club for it is because you could be part of multiple clubs and you might want the rewards to go to a different one. Now, one of the things that I've tried to figure out is, there's a couple of things that are tough. So when I'm looking at, where's my portfolio? Oh, when I'm looking at my portfolio, I can't tell how much of it was invested since the club started. And when I look in the club, I can't see, I don't know if maybe it is here somewhere and I can't tell. I've just missed it. So if anybody knows the answer to this, please let me know. But I'd like to know how much I actually have invested and assigned to this club. When I was doing my math, I think it's probably somewhere around 25,000, and I only think that because that would mean that my ROI on my rewards has been 1.99%, which is, the 2% rewards. I don't know that to be the case, though. I would have, if I had been guessing, I would have picked a lower number than 25,000 because I think that I had already put in close to 10,000 prior to April of 2025. I'm not entirely sure. I could go back and look through the, doing this same sort of thing where I'm going to my transactions, clicking on investments, and actually this is probably unclick that. This is probably would be much easier to do. I could probably do this right now. 5,000. Yeah, and the roads was free. My first one. Oh, but this is just showing my transactions, not how many shares I picked up. So sometimes when I've had credits. But so what do we have? 5 March. Yeah, so really, I really think it's like closer to 22,000 in investment. So I've actually made more than 2% in rewards based on the amount that I've invested. And I guess that's possible. It is the math of the clubs is still a little bit difficult for me to figure out, and that's why that's kind of why I wanted to dig into this, because one, it would be really like interesting for Mogul to make this a little bit easier for me to open up my club and see, how much I've invested that I've assigned to this club, how much, and then how much rewards I've gotten out of this club, and then what that return is. Because, it is just like a nice extra source of return. And I don't know if everybody realizes where this is coming from, right? This isn't like, this is basically marketing spend for Mogul, but what they're taking it out of is, let's see, is there the Mogul platform fee, right? They have this one-time Mogul platform fee. This is like, well, that doesn't look right. Some of the deals, they had stuff lumped into here that they didn't mean to have lumped into there. I wonder if I just happened to open one that's the case. I'm not sure. But it's supposed to be 5% of the total deal, and maybe it is on there. And then basically they're paying back 2%. Let me go. Yeah, when I look into here, do we see it? Nope. Okay, yeah. So this is 5%. So on this deal, okay, this is equal to 5% of the transaction, and then they're basically giving up 2% of this, or 40% of this number, right? 2%, 2 of the 5, or 40%, 2 out of 5 is 40%. Anyway, they're basically giving that back as rewards into the clubs, and I think the only reason that they're really doing that is because they're trying to create this community where, you invite your friend, because when my friends come into this club and invest, I get rewards. Now, over time, if I never invest any more money, my share in this club, my ownership percent basically goes down, right? Relative, because if I didn't keep buying more, but, I'll still continue to get paid every time somebody invests in here until it gets to a point where my ownership is so tiny compared to the whole or something like that. And so then it is also a reason so that, like, you'd want to encourage other people in your club to keep investing. Like, I think that's sort of their whole point of doing this. And, they do have the community tab, and you can talk to each other and ask questions. And I have found, especially in the 400 club, I've gotten, there's people responding in here pretty often that are Mogul employees, and it's because this was the club that they formed. Anyway, long-winded way to say that I think that there is a real benefit to it. My comment about making some months. I mean, my biggest month I made almost $80, right? And so on average $44 on a relatively small investment, and this is on top of the return I'm actually getting on these deals. Now, let me open my portfolio again. Because my portfolio isn't doing amazing because of all the short-term rentals I have, which, I've talked about quite a bit on this channel. This is the rental payout. So you can see some months, like in November, my rental payout was less than my club rewards, and I think there's a couple other months. Maybe not. But I think it's an interesting additional source of income. So if you haven't already done it, you definitely want to do it. It makes it so, like, every time you're looking at, I'm paying them a 5% fee when I'm buying this. Well, if you understand, you're really not if you're buying it through a club, because you are getting those rewards back. You might not get it back instantly on that deal when you invest, because you don't own, you don't just get 2% back. It goes into the club and gets distributed pro rata based on how much you've invested in there. But over time, it should approach that number, right? It should approach 2%. I would think. And that's the math of that is, like, I don't know why, but it's tough for my brain to grasp. And I think it's because it's not a something that we're normally doing in real estate investing, which is the only math I'm actually good at, because I've done it for, 20 plus years. Other math is not as intuitive to me, so I don't necessarily. I mean, you certainly, like, if you invest in a big group right now, you're getting a small amount. Yes, it's diluting the return that you're getting on your initial investment. But if it's one that is continually getting a lot of investments in it, I would think that that's more important. Because like a lot of people have talked about, well, should I just form my own group, my own club? And I actually think that if you're early in a club that's a very active club, that you're better off than if you're just. I think you'll end up doing better than the 2%. Like, I think I'm actually doing better than 2% because, like I said, I think I've only invested about 22,000. And so because that club has grown so much, it seems like that's how it's working out. So I don't know. And then if I never invest anything further for a while, I will still keep getting rewards as more people join that club. So it seems to me that you're better off joining a club that's going to continue to grow and be active than you are creating your own that's just going to be a couple people if you don't if you don't work on growing it. If anybody's done, more work on this and has a different idea than that, I'd love to hear about it because I'm really not sure. I think it could work either way. I mean, obviously, if you form a club, you're the only person in the club, then you're getting 100% of your rewards. Then it should always be the 2%. But if that's not, as long as, and that's one thing to keep in mind, right? When you're looking at clubs, they're not all paying out. I wonder if I can find one that's not. Yeah, like this one, right? You can see, okay, they're only paying out 1.8%. So the person who created this club is keeping 0.2% for themselves. And I think that they're, so when you join a club, you want to be careful about, okay, how much of the reward is actually being shared. Because I think I saw some that had 0.2%, and I think they were kind of trying to be sneaky because it makes it look like it's the same number. But I don't necessarily, 0.8% is going into the club, right? So like some of these, unless they're providing you some other benefit from being in the club, I don't see why I would do anything other than one that's paying out the full 2%. Maybe, I guess one reason that you could imagine is if whoever founded that club was doing a ton of recruiting into the club so that you're constantly getting new members investing in there and then you're getting credits from that. I'm just not sure that math works out because then your percentage ownership in the club is going to shrink. I think for sure it just makes sense to try to get one that's paying out the full 2%. And then also, again, I believe that you're just better off being in one that's growing and active, where you have a lot of people continually investing, even though it's diluting your percent in the club. Yeah, I don't know. And obviously, this is too tough for my guerrilla math type brain to handle. So if anybody who's done more work on this and thought more about it, let me know. Also, if you have an easier way for me to get these reports in a format, like I hate, having Grok turn it into a CSV and then that's annoying, right? And I was trying to figure out, is there some way to export it from here? And I couldn't see, as a CSV instead of as a PDF. I couldn't figure that out. Anybody who's got some insight on that would also love to hear about that. Anyway, until next time, I'm just going to keep making mistakes so that you don't have to.